My story begins in 2017, and this is me, Josh, a hardcore gamer addicted to a game called Biotic Wars. In that virtual world, I had to take down a legion of mutated mercenaries known as the Biotics. The game was set in the year 2162, when humanity was on the brink of extinction. The Biotics had unleashed a deadly virus that wiped out all 40 billion people on this planet, leaving behind only a fragile remnant of humankind. The last survivors were protected by a small army called the Resistance. No one had ever beaten this game before, which made it special, and the only escape from my mundane life. The next scene, I was trudging to work at a research facility called Kronish Labs, where I worked as a janitor. While cleaning, I couldn't help but sneak glances at a female employee named Jeri who was my crush. But an arrogant doctor named Camillo noticed and started mocking me, ridiculing my job. However, he was silenced by the facility's CEO, Dr. Kronish, who ordered Camillo back to work. Dr. Kronish then struck up a conversation with me, admitting that he wanted to fire Camillo but couldn't, as the doctor was too vital to his research. Then, Dr. Kronish pointed to a sore on his lip, revealing that he had herpes and was working tirelessly on a cure. When I curiously asked how he contracted it, Kronish explained that he got it from a woman named Bella at a party at Caltech on the very night of the moon landing. That night, while playing Biotic Wars as usual, I unexpectedly beat the final boss by destroying the evil doctor and blowing up the lab. I was hailed as the savior in the game. The feeling was exhilarating, pushing me to treat myself. Immediately, my eyes still glued to a poster of a female warrior named Tiger. But moments later, my eyes widened in disbelief as Tiger and another character, Wolf, appeared in the flesh right before me. They revealed that they were from the year 2162, and the game I was playing was actually a simulation of actual future events. I was the only one who had ever beaten it, which made me their savior. In shock, I assumed my friends were playing a prank on me, but Tiger promptly pulled out a time machine and teleported us to 1969. Moments later, I was stunned to see my room completely transform. I rushed downstairs and encountered my grandparents along with the younger versions of my dad and uncle. My family was shocked to see a stranger and immediately beat me up, assuming I was a thief. Wolf tried to help me, but Tiger wanted to test the savior's fighting skills first. But seeing me getting pummeled, both of them intervened and dealt with my family. Then we made our escape. Moments later, I was still in disbelief, realizing we had truly gone back to 1969, and we needed to blend in. The three of us then engaged in a fight with a group of bikers, stole their clothes and vehicles, and sped off. We stopped at a diner, where Wolf devoured food with excitement, as in the future, the only thing they had was rats and garbage. The two of them were completely disillusioned with me, as they expected me to be a warrior, since only I could beat the game. But as it turned out, I was just an ordinary guy. They further revealed that a major event was about to happen tonight, involving a man named Kronish, the creator of the Biotics. Hearing this, I froze, and admitted that I knew the doctor very well. I looked at the TV and realized today was the day of the moon landing, and the day Dr. Kronish would contract herpes. It turned out that his future cure would eventually lead to the creation of the Biotics. I told the two of them, and suggested we should head to Caltech to stop Kronish from spending the night with that woman. If Kronish never got herpes, he would have no need to find a cure, and humanity would be saved. Moments later, I accidentally blew up the entire diner with one of Tiger's gadgets. The incident caused a huge commotion, and the police were immediately called. We saw two officers, Jorge and Skarsgård, responding to the emergency, and they seemed excited as it was their first day on duty. But Wolf feared they were about to get caught, so he detonated a mine, causing the police car to explode. This killed Jorge, while Skarsgård was in immense pain over his partner's death. Moments later, the three of us arrived at Caltech, where a party was underway within the black community. We soon spotted a young Kronish, whom Wolf and Tiger immediately wanted to eliminate, but I stopped them. Nevertheless, an irate Wolf hurled insults, causing the three of us to be kicked out of the party. Outside, I stumbled upon a drunk man named Lamar, wearing an astronaut suit. I promptly stole the suit and returned to the party in disguise. Inside, I saw Kronish again, walking with a woman named Bella, the one who would infect him with herpes. I tried to approach Kronish but was intercepted by a group of men who thought I was Lamar and started babbling at me. Afterward, I finally approached Kronish and tried to separate him from the woman. But this only annoyed Kronish, as he was desperate for release at all costs. He assumed I was also hitting on Bella, and the two of us engaged in a dance-off to win her over. Kronish turned out to be a superior dancer and won over the crowd. However, I stunned everyone by performing Michael Jackson's moonwalk, impressing not only the crowd, but Bella as well. She now agreed to spend the night with me, but just then, the real Lamar walked in and wondered why everyone was chanting his name. This exposed me, and when they removed my helmet, everyone was shocked to see a white guy. I quickly rushed upstairs, while Lamar, who was wearing my jacket, found an iPhone in his pocket and became curious. Meanwhile, I escaped the building by jumping out the bathroom window and reunited with Tiger and Wolf. I informed them that the mission was a success, and the trio excitedly used the time machine to travel into the future. Moments later, we returned to 2017, and I was ecstatic that I had finally solved the problem and saved humanity. However, the three of us were stunned to see a bus with an advertisement from Dr. Kronish, pointing to the sore on his lip, revealing that he was still researching a cure. I led the two of them into my room through the window and went downstairs, where I was shocked to find a gun in the living room. I asked my dad, and he explained that they'd always had a gun since an incident in 1969, when a group of hippies attacked them. At the same time, I noticed my mom using an iPhone, but it was now called a Black Apple, which turned out to be invented by Lamar. I was speechless at all these changes, and realized that going back to the past had changed so much. I rushed upstairs and was even more shocked to realize my laptop was now called a Blaptop. I immediately informed Wolf and Tiger about the changes, and they declared that the only way to save humanity was to kill Dr. Kronish. At first, I refused to resort to such extreme measures, but realizing they wouldn't stop at any cost, I finally agreed to help them. Moments later, we arrived at the research facility, where I asked the two of them to stay outside while I went in to find the doctor. I was shocked to see many changes in the facility, including the fact that Dr. Camillo was no longer just an employee, but Kronish's partner. Moments later, I found Kronish and asked him how he got herpes. The old man explained that after being humiliated at the moon landing party, he felt insecure and spent nights with various other women across the world, which was likely the cause. I then told Kronish that I had a surprise for him and invited him outside. The naive doctor agreed, making me feel guilty and realizing I couldn't trick him into death. Instead, I advised Kronish to flee, warning him that dangerous people were hunting him. However, the doctor was unfazed, as he was used to receiving death threats daily from activists over his marsupial experiments. Meanwhile, outside, Tiger and Wolf grew impatient as I still hadn't returned. They stormed into the building and started causing chaos, even beating up some people inside. They soon found me, pleading with them to spare the doctor and insisting there had to be another way to stop the research. Tiger now believed I lacked the courage to kill him, so she feigned agreement with me, secretly placing a tracker on me. Afterward, I approached Kronish again, who revealed that my warning about his impending death made him realize his time was limited. So he shared his research and formulas online, allowing anyone to develop a cure. This excited me as it meant there was no need to kill Kronish, as the research was already public. But just then, I heard Tiger and Wolf wielding a laser gun from another building and preparing to kill the doctor. I signaled them to abort the mission, but they didn't listen and fired a shot that shattered the window. Kronish and I started panicking, so Tiger decided to fire another shot to finish off the doctor. However, the two of them were interrupted when some biotics from the future arrived and started attacking them. I also ran outside and was shocked to see Tiger and Wolf battling the biotic soldiers I had only ever seen in video games. After all the biotics were defeated, Tiger and Wolf removed their masks, and I realized they were the people working at the facility. Wolf went on to say that these biotics were lab-grown humans and could be from the future to protect Kronish. Then, the three of us dragged the biotics' bodies to the lab's basement and dumped them into the crematorium, where the marsupials experimented on dye. The two of them grew increasingly frustrated with me for interfering with their plans, and suggested it would have been much easier to go back to when Kronish was a baby. They forced me to reveal Kronish's birthday, but I didn't know, and I refused to accept killing an innocent child. Just then, Wolf checked the time travel device, and was shocked to discover their fuel, called cameronium, had completely depleted. This sent them into a panic, as without it, they would no longer be able to time travel and would be stuck in the present. The two urged me to find more cameronium, but I admitted I had no idea what it was. They demanded I find out, pointing out that I was a scientist working in the lab. However, I shamefully confessed that I was only a janitor, which sent the two into a rage. They felt foolish for believing I was their savior and kicked me out of the team. Wolf and Tiger then hid in a sewer, discussing their situation. Not long after, I went to find them. I insisted I had a plan, and convinced the two of them to trust me and take me back, which they reluctantly agreed to. After analyzing various options, the group decided to steal cameronium from the Biotics, who also had the ability to time travel to both the past and the future. As some Biotics were working at Kronish's facility disguised as humans, they planned to capture and torture them for information. I then mentioned the company's annual event, the Kronish Ball, which was scheduled for this weekend and mandatory attendance. The party traditionally ended with a toast, after which everyone would eat a Kronish ball, a small chocolate truffle. Since the Biotics were immune to poison, they devised a plan. They would put psilocybin mushrooms into the truffles, causing all non-biotics to vomit and soil themselves. This would help identify the Biotics immediately, making their capture much easier. Afterward, I met Kronish and tried to ask for the recipe for the Kronish balls, saying I wanted to surprise the director with them. The woman found the gesture touching and agreed to help me. Meanwhile, I realized Tiger and Wolf weren't ready for a social gathering, so I introduced them to my parents as veterans, deeply traumatized by their time in Afghanistan. My dad, Gabe, quickly bonded with Wolf and taught him the basics of cooking. Although Wolf struggled initially, Gabe patiently guided him with kindness and understanding. Meanwhile, my mom, Diane, took care of Tiger, showing her how to apply makeup, pick out beautiful dresses, and walk confidently in high heels. Days later, the day of the event finally arrived. Wolf prepared the Kronish balls with psilocybin mushrooms to poison the guests. He sneaked into the party disguised as a waiter, while Tiger wore a stunning dress and attended as my date. I then brought these desserts to Dr. Kronish as a surprise gift, and the old man was genuinely touched by the sweet gesture and thanked me. Meanwhile, Jeri, who had grown close to me in the past few days, noticed me with Tiger and felt a bit uneasy. I followed her and tried to explain that Tiger was just a colleague, not my girlfriend. Although she remained suspicious, I won her over with a few sweet words. The two of us shared a kiss, but it was interrupted when Kronish began his speech. Wolf then arrived in the main hall with the Kronish balls and began serving the guests, who ate with excitement. But moments later, the guests started falling ill and vomiting violently, except for those who were biotics. Elsewhere, we saw an older version of Officer Skarsgård, whose partner Jorge had tragically been killed by time travelers in 1969. It turned out he hadn't forgotten their faces, and upon spotting me, he recognized me immediately. Skarsgård quickly arrested me, but moments later, he began to vomit, giving me a chance to escape. Meanwhile, Wolf and Tiger were hunting down the were extremely cunning. Next, an annoyed Tiger decided to use a live scorpion to torture Jeri, but I stopped her and promised to handle the situation. I said there were 6 minutes left, and I only needed 4 minutes to convince Jeri. After Tiger reluctantly left, Jeri told me that I was a good and kind person and shouldn't associate with people like them. She even confessed that the Biotics were actually fighting for a noble cause, and I seemed to be convinced by her words. During their conversation, Jeri shockingly revealed that she didn't actually possess the time travel device, and the Biotics had jumped here on a one-way ticket. She also confessed that Cameronium was created by filmmaker James Cameron and named after him, but this wouldn't happen for another 6 years. I was stunned by this revelation, and Jeri admitted she had lied earlier and that she actually had feelings for me. Hearing this, my demeanor suddenly changed, and I revealed that I was only pretending to be weak to get the necessary information about Cameronium from her. I said that although Wolf and Tiger were aggressive, they had at least never lied to me about anything. Jeri was stunned to realize she had been tricked, but before she could react, her head exploded, splattering blood all over the room. Moments later, Tiger entered the room and was shocked by the bloody scene. She asked if I had obtained the necessary information, and I confirmed. The three of us then decided to travel to the year 2023, where they planned to visit filmmaker James Cameron's mansion. This mission was extremely crucial, as without finding fuel, they would be stuck in 2023 and never be able to return. Moments later, they activated the time travel device and arrived at Cameron's mansion, which was controlled by a female AI named Sigourney E. The AI introduced herself and asked for their identities, so I revealed myself as the son of a celebrity, Tom Arnold, who worked with James Cameron. When Sigourney E asked if I was the 10-year-old Jax Arnold, I confirmed this and explained that these two were my nannies. It turned out Cameron wasn't home, so Tiger ordered Wolf to find Sigourney's mainframe and shut it down so they could move freely. He said that he didn't want to hurt the AI, who seemed tough but was very motherly, but Tiger rudely said she didn't care about his feelings. A dejected Wolf left, after which Tiger and I began exploring the massive mansion, but we didn't find much, as all the doors were restricted. Meanwhile, Wolf started chatting with Sigourney E, during which he accidentally revealed that he had no idea who Jax Arnold was. This made her suspicious, and she later asked me a security question about my mother's name. As expected, I couldn't answer correctly, so she locked me and Tiger in an elevator, and Wolf was locked in another room. Next, Wolf tried various ways to break the door, even attempting to use a bomb, but failed. He then became worried that Tiger would have another chance to scold him. He confided in the AI and revealed that Tiger was his mission commander, who never appreciated his work and always looked down on him. Surprisingly, Sigourney E empathized and explained that James Cameron also made her do complex tasks, but never appreciated her help. She said she was exhausted by his orders and couldn't stand another reprogramming. Wolf comforted the AI, saying they were both better than they thought, but prisoners of their own design. After this emotional conversation, Sigourney E agreed to help her new friend and asked Wolf to be honest about why he was there. He then detailed their mission, after which the AI opened the doors for them and led them to a room where they could find Cameronium. Moments later, the three of us found a hidden underground vault where we had to dive into a deep and freezing pool. Sigourney E warned them of the risk of hypothermia and the very low survival rate. They debated who should go, but it turned out Tiger and Wolf couldn't swim. This shocked me, and I had no choice but to dive in myself, as they couldn't leave without fuel. Next, I plunged into the deep waters and soon found the Cameronium, but as I surfaced, I was dazed by the biting cold and blacked out. I nearly drowned, but thankfully, the other two grabbed me and pulled me out. Following Sigourney E's instructions, Tiger administered CPR, while Wolf performed chest compressions, until our hero finally gasped back to life. With the biofuel in hand, the trio decided to leave, but Wolf, who had bonded with Sigourney E, felt emotional about having to say goodbye. She asked him to let go, and suggested he make a few changes to her mainframe, which he agreed to. As the trio departed, James Cameron returned to the mansion, only to find himself unable to enter, which sent him into a rage as he yelled at Sigourney E. Elsewhere, the trio returned to 2017, where they arrived at a field in the countryside by the road. They approached their car, where a few dead biotics from the party had begun to decompose and emit a foul odor. They then torched the car and drove off the scene. But unfortunately, the explosion also ignited a nearby cornfield, and the fire quickly began to spread. Sometime later, I returned to work, where I encountered Dr. Kronish, who seemed worried and revealed that his house had recently burned down. I, however, wanted to know his birthday, and began asking about the doctor's past. But Kronish revealed that he wasn't happy with his wife, Marigold, and admitted that his true love was someone named Leslie, with whom he had an affair. He even pointed to a photo of a boat in his office, explaining it was a 36th birthday gift from Leslie. They were supposed to elope that night, but he ultimately backed out. When I asked for his birthday, Kronish revealed it was June 24th, and he was now 68 years old. Realizing this might be their last encounter, I took a photo with the doctor to commemorate the moment. Afterward, I met Tiger and Wolf, but hesitated to reveal the birthday. But after some prodding, I finally gave in. The police soon realized they were suspects in a series of fires happening throughout the city and began pursuing them. Worse still, Skarsgård also found them, and even the Biotics joined in the chase. The desperate trio then ran towards a burning forest. They realized they had to time travel immediately, or they would die or be caught by the police. Amidst the chaos, I seized control of the time machine, and in a flash, the three of us were teleported to a different timeline. But seconds later, Tiger and Wolf were shocked to find they had arrived in 1985 instead of 1949, the year Kronish was born. They realized this was my doing and became furious, but I reassured them by saying there were other ways to solve the problem instead of killing a baby. I explained that there was a boat departing tonight, and they just needed to ensure Kronish got on that boat. I said this was a turning point in Kronish's life, as he was considering abandoning his life here and eloping with Leslie. I asserted that all they had to do was expose his affair with Marigold, which would ruin his marriage and motivate Kronish to leave. This infuriated Tiger, but she had no choice but to try, as they were here anyway. Afterward, Tiger and I went to a store to shop, where I intended to buy some seductive outfits and take photos of Tiger wearing them to place on Kronish's bed for his wife to find. Just then, Wolf arrived with a car he had stolen, and it turned out he had locked the owner in the trunk. This greatly annoyed Tiger, especially since the car only had 2 seats, not enough for the 3 of them. She insulted Wolf and ordered him to return the car and come back soon. However, an irate Wolf didn't return for a long time, so Tiger decided to go find him, as he had a time travel device that the Biotics could track. With this, I went to Kronish's house alone, where I put on the seductive clothes and took some photos without revealing my face. Elsewhere, we saw Wolf had blended into the 80s culture and was enjoying himself. He was seen lounging on a California beach, joining a group of local men playing volleyball and hosting barbecues. Back to me, I left my seductive photos and prepared to make my escape, but a man entered the room, forcing me to hide under the bed. I assumed it was Marigold's boyfriend, and moments later, Kronish also entered the room. I eagerly awaited a confrontation, but was stunned to see Kronish and the man begin to get intimate, which shocked me. It turned out Kronish was a closeted gay man, and Leslie was the man's name. Not long after, Marigold returned home, and as I tried to sneak away, she discovered me in the hallway and was shocked to see a man dressed like that. Leslie and Kronish soon appeared, pretending they were just hanging out. Marigold assumed I was a gay male prostitute, and asked if her husband was gay. Kronish denied ever meeting me, while Leslie signaled him to tell the truth about their relationship. Unfortunately, Kronish lacked the courage to do so, and declared that he didn't like men. This hurt Leslie, and he left the house, while I also took the opportunity to leave. In the evening, Tiger finally found Wolf and apologized for her harshness, persuading him to return. But, surprisingly, Wolf had quickly become popular in this era, and had found many new friends. He admitted that he was tired of the mission and wanted to leave the team. Hearing this, Tiger was shocked and insisted he couldn't abandon her like that, but he retorted that they had fought for a better future, and the best future was right here, and he left. Tiger tried to follow him, but she soon lost sight of him in the crowd, which infuriated her. Elsewhere, I realized I might have to resort to force with Kronish, and went to his house to retrieve a gun. I put on my uncle's clothes and went downstairs, where a lively party was underway. I was shocked to see my young father drinking carefreely, which stunned me. I then approached Gabe and introduced myself as Juice. Gabe was delighted by the encounter and invited me to hang out together, which I accepted without hesitation. On the other hand, Tiger found Wolf again and tried to persuade him to return, but he refused and locked her in the closet before attempting to destroy the time travel device. But Tiger soon escaped and tried to stop him, leading to a fierce fight between them. Both were severely injured, and eventually, Wolf declared that he wouldn't return at any cost, and she would have to kill him. Tiger was heartbroken to hear this, and she eventually decided to let him go. After having fun with my dad, I stole the gun from his house and went to find Kronish. I held the doctor at gunpoint and forced him to go to the docks, where the boat was set to depart. Kronish didn't understand why I was supporting his gay relationship or even knew about it. He revealed that if he got on that boat, he would be giving up his career, social life, and his entire future. But I tried to make him understand that the world would soon become better for gay people. Kronish thought this guy was insane, so I finally revealed that I was from the future, which the doctor clearly didn't believe. To prove it, I showed him a photo of them from 2017 with the exact boat they were looking at in the background. I then explained my mission and how Kronish's herpes cure led to the invention of the Biotics, which ultimately destroyed humanity. Kronish wondered how that could happen, so I revealed that the key to the breakthrough was marsupial semen. I also warned that if Kronish didn't get on the boat, his colleagues would shoot him as a baby. Hearing this, the doctor was stunned and understood that this man had come from the future to save him, and the least he could do was get on that boat. He then thanked me sincerely and went to reunite with the love of his life. This made me incredibly happy, but just then, a severely injured Tiger arrived. I asked what happened, but she said nothing, except that Wolf had left the team. I then informed her that the mission was a success, after which they used the time machine to leave. Moments later, the two returned to 2017, and I was ecstatic that their mission was a success. But when they returned, they were shocked to see a massive building in front of them, which sent Tiger into a rage. She then explained that the building, known as the Cronitorium, was where the Biotics were created, but it wasn't supposed to exist for another 50 years. This confused me. I pointed out that Kronish would have been dead long ago. Tiger then revealed that Kronish would only cure herpes, but his research would be the foundation for the supercure, developed years after his death. She suspected that I had said something to him that inspired him to research the supercure himself. Hearing this, I recalled that I had inadvertently informed the doctor about his future and how he achieved his breakthrough. I then suggested that there might be another solution, but Tiger was tired of me and angrily kicked me off the team before leaving. The next scene, Tiger traveled to 1949 and lurked outside Kronish's house on a rainy night. However, Kronish's mother, Estelle, noticed her soaking wet and kindly invited her inside. Upon entering, Tiger looked for a weapon to kill the baby, but soon noticed a photo of her father on the wall and realized he was a soldier. Estelle sadly explained that her husband had died in World War II, and her son was the only thing that kept her going. She then handed Tiger the baby to hold and went into the kitchen. Surprisingly, Tiger felt pity for the baby and promised herself that she would kill it tomorrow. The scene then shifted to a year later, showing Tiger had become part of the family and had raised Kronish. She seemed genuinely happy, and every time she tried to kill the child, she always promised to do it tomorrow. However, in 1952, Estelle happily told Tiger that her boyfriend had proposed to her, so she and Kronish would move in with him. This made Tiger sad, but Estelle also encouraged her to move on with her life and reunite with Wolf, whom she always mentioned. As a farewell gift, she gave Tiger a locket with a photo of her and baby Kronish inside. Realizing this was the end, Tiger approached the crib to finally end the baby, but once again, she couldn't bring herself to do it. Moments later, Tiger returned to 2017, where she found an altar for Wolf, stating he had died in 1993. This moved her greatly, but she soon noticed a nearby tape recorder, and it turned out to be left by Wolf for her. Tiger played the tape, and we saw a flashback of Wolf, who was doing very well in the 80s, and had opened a restaurant where he kidnapped his customers to give them the thrill of thinking they were about to die and making them eat his strange dishes. Wolf eventually grew his business and won numerous awards and widespread fame. However, in 1993, Wolf grew tired and began to feel regret for abandoning Tiger. One day, he decided to end his life, just as Skarsgård burst in and tried to arrest him for his partner's death. Back in 1969, Wolf asked the man to kill him, but Skarsgård refused, as he wanted Wolf to suffer his punishment. At this moment, thankfully, Tiger appeared from the future to save her friend from ending his life. The two teammates reconciled in tears, and Wolf also apologized for abandoning her. Skarsgård tried to arrest them, and even shot at them, but the two quickly used the time travel device to disappear, leaving the stunned police officer in disbelief. Meanwhile, in 2017, I tried to enter the Cronitorium, but when the employee scanned me, it displayed a photo of me from 1985, wearing a seductive dress, and I was immediately kicked out. A disappointed me then noticed Dr. Camillo outside, who is now just a low-level employee. Confused, I returned home and was shocked to discover I now owned a mansion and was wealthy, with servants calling me Jush. Alarmed, I googled myself and found I was a millionaire who owned a large energy drink company. This excited me greatly, and I was enjoying myself with my new friends when suddenly, there was a doorbell. It turned out to be Wolf and Tiger, who told me about their adventures in the 1940s and 1980s. I was shocked to learn they had gone through all those years in the past, while I had simply returned home from the crematorium during that time. Next, the three of us decided to return to our mission and find out what Kronish was up to now. Tiger then approached a lonely Camillo on the street and flirted with him. Meanwhile, Skarsgård spotted her from afar and was shocked to see her still looking the same as in 1969 and 1985. Tiger then went to Camillo's house, where she prepared food for him and began asking about his job and his boss. A smitten Camillo revealed that Kronish had locked himself on the top floor of the building and never came out or let anyone in, except for marsupials. However, they would soon find out, as he was scheduled to give an important speech in 2 days, which made Tiger realize it wasn't too late. Meanwhile, I went to visit my parents, who turned out to be living in a nursing home. However, my dad was furious to see me and asked how I dared to visit them after ruining everything. I then realized that in this timeline, I had turned my parents home into my mansion and evicted them through a court order declaring them mentally incompetent. I tried to apologize, saying it wasn't me, but my dad refused to believe my excuses and asked me not to come near him again. In the evening, a dejected me returned home, and as I tried to take a bath, I was confronted by another version of myself, the real Jush. Jush thought I was his cloned assassin sent to kill him, and the two of us engaged in a clumsy brawl. During the struggle, Jush accidentally fell to the floor and ultimately died, while I watched in horror. Afterward, an excited me showed the dead body to Wolf and Tiger, explaining that in this world, he had never played Biotic Wars, so no one had ever beaten the game. He decided to play the game again and beat it, so they could recruit another Tiger, Wolf, and many other members. He speculated that if there was another version of himself, there could also be other versions of them, allowing them to form an army and blow up the crematorium. Next, I played the game again and sent a message to the time travelers, guiding them so they could avoid dying. I soon beat the game again and achieved the title of the Savior, after which the lights began to flicker, signaling that the time travelers were about to arrive. Moments later, two time travelers, Dingo and Owl, finally appeared and revealed that all their teammates had died upon arrival, including other versions of Tiger and Wolf. After a brief reunion, the group began to outline their final plan. They decided they would infiltrate stealthily rather than cause mass destruction, and would not use nuclear weapons, only targeted strikes. They split into 3 teams, and the first would be Team Alpha, consisting of Dingo and Tiger, who would clear civilians from the building, triggering a false alarm. Team Bravo was me and Wolf, who would enter from underground to plant timed explosive blocks throughout the building. And Team Charlie was Owl, who would disable the building's power source and open security doors with explosives, allowing access to Kronish's laboratory. Afterward, they all decided to jump back to the future, but I said I wouldn't go with them and would stay in 2017, where I planned to reconcile with my family. The next scene, the group began to execute their plan, but as they prepared to detonate the bomb, Tiger realized there was still a child inside and hesitated. Dingo tried to convince her that humanity's future was at stake, but Tiger insisted on saving the child first and rushed inside. This led to a major argument between the two, and Dingo noticed Tiger repeatedly touching her locket. She snatched it from her grasp and was shocked to see a photo of baby Kronish inside, along with his name, which enraged her. After fighting Dingo, Tiger met Wolf and me, and we tried to reach the top floor but failed. We tried to contact Owl, who had become unstable since a biotic implanted a worm in his brain, which had begun to destroy his consciousness. I recalled that only marsupials could go to the top floor, so I decided to use the marsupial slide. Tiger warned me that it was a one-way ticket, as marsupials sent downstairs would be automatically incinerated in the crematorium. But I was willing to sacrifice myself. After a final hug with Wolf and Tiger, I entered the slide and ascended to the top floor, while the two of them stayed behind to battle the approaching biotics. After a grueling struggle, I finally reached Dr. Kronish's office, and the old man calmly said that he had been expecting me. I asked why he couldn't be happy with his lover, so Kronish replied that he was happy with Leslie, but he had died from a staph infection one day, leaving him in anguish. Kronish then dedicated himself to discovering cures for various diseases, so that no one would have to witness their loved one die. But I countered, saying that every time the doctor created something, it led to the birth of the biotics. To prove it, I showed Kronish the army of biotics approaching on the surveillance cameras, telling the doctor that it was his creation. This deeply saddened Kronish, who explained that all he wanted was to be a noble person and heal the world. He then showed me 2 syringes, one containing all the deadly diseases in the world and the other containing their cures. He revealed that his plan for tomorrow's demonstration was to infect himself, then immediately cure himself. However, realizing this would only lead to more disasters, he tragically decided to end his own life by injecting himself with the disease syringe. Following Kronish's death, I set the timed bomb to detonate in 2 minutes, while an injured wolf and tiger used the time machine to return to the future. Elsewhere, we saw that I had sent all of Jush's money to my parents and even returned their house to them. I prepared myself to die, until I heard Owl's voice, who was on his deathbed. Before dying, Owl shut off the power to the slide, finally allowing me to descend downstairs without being burned alive. Moments later, I finally made it out of the building safely, just as it exploded and destroyed everything. I was ecstatic that the mission was complete, but my joy was cut short when Skarsgård appeared to arrest me. The scene then shifted to a year later, where Skarsgård visited the prison and played chess with me. The old man asked about my time-traveling friends, but I said I had blown up the building myself. Before leaving, Skarsgård showed me a newspaper clipping, revealing that my parents were doing charity work and helping poor children with the money I had left them. In the final scene, I returned to my cell and I seemed content with my life. But moments later, the lights began to flicker and I rose in panic. And I realized that the time travelers were on their way once again. My story ends here. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching until the end, and see you next time.